All right. Hello, everybody. This is
Hello,
Zach
everyone.
Sloan, and I'm here with,
Anne Luna.
this is the Break Free blog, vlog, cast. I still don't think
Podcast.
we've, yeah,
Vlogcast.
yeah, this is Ann and I talking roughly once a month about all the coolness that's going on in our musical career and our musical lives. So, Ann, what's on your mind?
So, as we're both going through this process of learning what it is to be a full-time musician after having full-time jobs, and looking at the different layers that arise out of that, one of the things we've been talking about is this concept of play it like you mean it. And so we've got a blog post up on that. And for me, it's all about intention. And so I've seen how this changes as I've matured as a musician, if I matured as a musician. We'll say I have from where I was. Things are just different. And so we talk about in the blog post, whenever people would tell me, okay, no, play like you mean it. But either get kind of off and be like, what do you mean? This is hard. It's already doing the best I can. You know? What more do you want from me? Or I was like, yeah, so I was kind of on autopilot, or I wasn't playing with as much intention as I could. And either way, looking at how whenever you hear play it like you mean it, or telling this to yourself, I guess, you've got this opportunity to reflect on what you're doing and to have this other layer of listening to what you're up to and what you're putting out there. So in the blog, I kind of go into that more from a practice standpoint. And, you know, because what you practice, you're going to end up performing.
Right.
And so when you go into kind of a more performance-based discussion, so it works out well.
Well, I think that's more so because you're a better practicer than I am. Like
I
you,
don't know.
I think you probably are. But also the part of the reason I talked about live performance more than you is that after I read your first draft of the blog, there was nothing else for me to say on that. Like it really could have, because I thought some of the points you made, you know, I had made similar points, so I wound up just yanking them out of my section because I was like, I can't say it better than you.
That was nice of you to let me say it.
Well, and in particular, when you talk about making mistakes and how that should function, and can you talk about that a little bit? Because I thought that was really cool.
No, I have to remind myself of this lesson over and over again. So when I was taking classical lessons at Texas Tech, Paul Sharp was my teacher, and he would always say, make your mistakes big. And, you know, because I would play too timidly, I was too scared of making a mistake. And so, you know, to get me over that, he's like, okay, you know, you're gonna make a mistake, just go for it, you know. And that allows you to get to this other layer that you're not going to find otherwise.
Right.
It totally changes the way you practice. And from my biology teaching days, it kind of goes along with the value of the failed experiment. You know, nothing's really failed. It's just information. And it's like, oh, okay, now I know how to not do that.
That's actually a really good point. I'm going to start bringing that up to like my bandmates and stuff. Like in rehearsal, if you're going to screw it up so big that you will ingrain in your head, I'm never doing that again. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, it kind of goes along with too when I was first learning to play bass, and my dad's like, just don't drop the beat. You know, if you play a wrong note, just play it.
Right.
Don't drop the beat. Because you're like, oh, okay, don't like that sound. Now I know how to not get that, you know, because you're paying attention. And it's that whole, if you're making mistakes big, if you're doing whatever you're doing big, you've got this intention with it and you're paying attention.
Right.
And then you can fix it, you know, or discover something new. I think that's the thing, is not being afraid to get out there and experiment and discover with things.
Absolutely. And I remember I read a story once about Elton John, how like in his early days as a bar piano player, if he made a mistake like in a chorus, he would then intentionally make that mistake every chorus so people thought it was part of the song. And that's like making your mistakes as big as possible. He was intentionally replicating them.
Right. We're gonna do that again. Let's record it that way.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a jazz player now.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing. It's if we're not saying anything's right or wrong, and it's just flavors and it just sounds, and you're just playing with sound and the feelings, then you know how to access that when you want to.
Right.
Or that's the idea anyway.
Well, I think that's actually a good segue to like the second thing I had here was people will always say, well, play with more emotion. And sometimes that's such an abstract statement. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, and sometimes that timidness almost never sounds, or I should say timidness a lot of times sounds like you're guessing at everything you do.
Right.
Whereas if you're going at it with the attitude of, just full bore,
right.
Even if you make a mistake, people will probably, at a minimum, at least not say you're timid.
It's kind of that thing, kind of the same things like, yeah, just wail on this, man. So, there's different ways of conveying emotion, and we don't always want to have things way up top of scale. There's times that maybe not necessarily being timid, but being, I don't know, reserved or quieter, because the whole playing with dynamics things too.
Right.
And I think too, when somebody's telling me to play with emotion, I was like, yeah, no, how about you play this the way you want to?
Right.
If I'm doing it the way that I'm feeling it, I don't want to change that and be guessing what somebody else wants me to be saying or conveying to them. I don't know. So
that's actually, that's a really cool point. I always appreciate it, and this is slightly far afield, but I totally get what you say, is that, like, I love it if I'm producing an act or I've got somebody in the studio and they just say, I want it like this.
Right.
Because I can cope with that. I'm like, okay, I think I know what you want. And rather than when people say things that are really abstract, and I'm like, I'm guessing at what you really want. And I always feel like the worst is when people go, I just want it to move people. And I'm like, how?
Right. Yeah.
Like, how are we going to do that?
How do you want people to be moved? Do you want them crying? Do you want them laughing?
Yeah, that's a good point. There are different levels of
there's
movement.
There's different ways to move a person. But on that note, I think people always recognize authenticity, and maybe that's the thing that kind of like the play it like you mean it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, are you playing, I want to say, or is that really how you're feeling right now? There's times as performers, as musicians, when you're singing tunes that cover this wide range of emotions, and
right.
You're trying to invest in them as much as you can, but sometimes I'm really happy when I'm singing a sad song, or vice versa, so you're an actor in that too. But
right.
I think whatever the case, your delivery, I guess, is that whole other level of performance, which is different all the time, which is part of the art of performances, is what you're gonna get, kind of.
Right.
To an extent.
Well, and, I always think of it from the perspective of, like, being a vocalist and playing it like you mean it has like the acting can almost be more, if you don't do it well, it can start to look kind of cheesy,
Right. Yeah.
You have to be careful with that. Whereas as an instrumentalist, like, it's easier for me to tap into that emotional content and really express it.
Right.
If I'm playing, say, like a blues guitar solo,
sure,
I have more tricks in my toolbox that aren't maybe necessarily cheesy, as opposed to like singing a sad ballad back to back with like a big rock song.
Right.
Like, how do I express both of those and not look like an idiot? And I usually fail at that.
I bet you do a better job than you think you do. But yeah, I think I'm also a little more comfortable, like, really putting emotion into bass playing. But when I sing it, I'm getting better at this all the time. Because there's times, you know, when I'm singing my own tunes that are really sad and I think revealing, it's like, oh man, I sing this with too much emotion, too much intention. You know, I can't do this in front of people.
Right.
So there's, I don't know, I guess you learn the that you give yourself in those situations or something. Yeah.
Well, and I think kind of my last point on play it like you mean it is something that we both sort of alluded to, that, you know, you got to practice it like you're ultimately going to perform it. And that's different than learning the material, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to play it like you mean it while you're trying to physically figure out what you're going to do or what note you're going to sing. But once you have that baseline of, you know, the raw material, it's not practice anymore for the sake of physically being able to do it. It is, how do I make this compelling to total strangers? You know, for my case, in a bar or a coffee shop or a wine shop, or in your case, a bar, coffee shop, wine shop, or a house concert. I've done house concerts now too. We can both sing. But yeah, so I think there's also that dynamic too of, you know, playing it like you mean it so that you can effectively communicate something to people you don't know and get the point across.
Right. And yeah, because things are different when there's people in front of you, you know, and which you can hear advantage or not. Because I catch myself, if there's someone I'm trying to impress in the audience and I'm playing it like I mean it.
Right.
You know? It's like, hey, you know, but if there's, you know, sometimes it's harder. Sometimes you have an audience that's not as responsive too. But I kind of compare it a little bit to memorizing speeches or reading speeches. It's like, hey, can you deliver this like you actually, you know, the words and the meaning behind them and you want to convey that, rather than just being like, I am reading a script. I mean, we can tell, again, we can tell when somebody's being authentic, like in TV commercials or whatever. It's like, you know, something I'm saying with no emotion. I'm just writing some words and, you know. Yeah.
It's like every politician's concession speech ever is, I'd like to say good job to my opponent. He ran a good campaign. It's just like, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, don't be that's my big takeaway from the day is I just try not to be the losing politician when I'm on stage.
I like it. So yeah, but it's different on stage, you know, and that's another layer you can bring to your rehearsal and your practice is, you know, if you're playing through a sound system, if sometimes, you know, if you've got a mirror or something so you can see what you look like.
Mirrors are the most helpful thing.
Oh man, it's rough, but it's invaluable. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't know, or be like,
I'm glad you said that. I have rehearsal tonight. That's why all the drums and stuff are set up behind me. I'm going to set a mirror up in my rehearsal studio tonight.
You know, it'll change things, you know? Yeah.
That's oh my goodness. My guys are going to hate me. But I'm doing it.
Maybe you can have like the curtain that you draw over it as needed.
I love it. And I think kind of an additional thing that we had talked about a little bit, and this is not directly mentioned in the blog, but I think a part of the conversation is sometimes using, you know, those mistakes as a springboard to maybe it takes you someplace you didn't know, or you didn't anticipate the song going somewhere, but you made a mistake, and because of that you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Right.
And an example of me doing that recently is when I was tracking my latest single, Porcelain, which you'll hear at the end of the video. There's like this bridge section which is very like Led Zeppelin, big slam chords and drums, all that crap. But the chord progression, when I was playing it on the piano, I made a mistake and I hit the wrong keys. And I was like, oh, that was cooler. And so then I rewrote the bridge to use that mistake chord. You know, and I don't think that would have happened had I not been like fully committed in the studio that day to just like rocking out like a madman and not being worried about hitting a wrong note, because the wrong note ultimately became the right note.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you because big emotions, big intention, it leads you places that you guys don't get to. And so it makes that process of discovery just different.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of that all the time. It doesn't go away. So like, oh yeah, I played big once. Yeah, that's cool. I'm done with that now.
Right.
Or got that skill down, because it does become a habit and skill, but things that draw us out of that.
Absolutely. Well, Anne, can we shift gears a little bit and talk about constraints and how to use constraints to your advantage?
So, really, in a song, we've got chord changes when we're rehearsing. We've got some kind of structure, Okay, so a slight aside. This story is from a friend that, so they're like sitting around, I'm kind of making part of this up, but the point will be there.
Like, I'm protecting the innocent or the guilty, depending.
So they're sitting around a campfire or something, and this guy's got this terribly out of tune guitar. He's like, "Hey man, can I tune your guitar?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I don't tune my guitar. No boundary, man." It's kind of like all right, so tuning is useful, it's putting some boundaries on your guitar, it's telling it how to be, but I think you like this. So I mean, with our rehearsing, with these structures, these known structures that we can play with, because there's alternate tuning, gives you something to put against, and if you like, that's why we practice scales. It's very structured, and but once you've got that, you can push it. You can know how to jam with. You can alter because you know where those steps are.
Right.
And so, and I think that goes with chords, with song arrangements, with so many things. You've got structure, and that's useful. So,
or even just time signature, right? Like people, that is a very basic form, or a very basic form of like containment. Is you are going to play in groups of 4 beats, or 3 beats, or whatever. And in fact, I think back to one of our teachers at South Plains College, Ed Marsh, and him telling the story about how he was jamming with, I think, some guy from India. And he's like, the dude was like, he's like, "I'm very intrigued by you Westerners' repeated use of 4 beat measures." He's like, "I don't do that." And he's like, and it was just like, it never occurred to me that maybe that's not the way everybody does it.
There's not 3 and 4 for everybody else.
Yeah. Like,
how do you dance to that? No.
Yeah, no kidding. You know what? Maybe that's why. It's not that I'm a bad dancer, Anne. It's just that I'm dancing to beats that aren't in our music.
You really just dance to like 5/4 or something.
Yeah, I dance in 16/8 or no 17/8.
Your feet are a different culture. That's all.
Yes, that is it. Well, and as we're talking about constraints in pushing your playing or your songwriting, I kind of wanted to chat a little bit about this cool songwriting contest that I heard about. Because if those of you who know Anne know that she's a huge metal fan. She loves the metal. I'm just waiting for the day for her to leave her bluegrass band and start a speed metal outfit. First speed metal band ever with an upright bass. But there is a band. Until then, and when that happens, I want to hear it. But there's a band, the Serge. I forget how to say his last name, but he's the vocalist from System of a Down, is doing this songwriting challenge that I thought was kind of cool, where he gives you the first 7 notes of a song, and you can write whatever you want as long as it's under 3 minutes, and it starts off with those 7 notes. And it's in the key of like C harmonic minor, so it's a weird key that I'd never played in before. And I thought it was a cool way to say, hey, here are these limitations that are imposed. If you want to enter the $5,000 contest, you have to do this. What coolness can you come up with?
Yeah.
it's interesting because people sort of scoff at that, but then I think back to high school or college days when you have a term paper due. It's amazing how much work you can get done in a couple hours.
Exactly. And with that too, it's like, okay, you need to write at least this many words, and whether you've got a subject or not. And yeah. And everybody's song is going to be a little different because everybody works differently, all creative beings. And so how cool is that? But a lot of times we just need a prompt, Here's your 7 notes, here's a key, go for it.
I think that's a good idea, not thinking of these things as limitations, but as prompts.
Yeah, I think
that's a really cool thought.
That seems to work better for me if I'm putting it in that light, because I think it's just connotation word, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess I think like structure or something too, which sometimes people have a very negative connotation with structure. Like, oh no, structure, schedule. I don't do that, man. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
But we all do, because, to an extent anyway.
Yeah, well, I always find, not always, there are exceptions, but generally the people I meet who are the most successful, they have, even if their structure is very odd, they have it in some way, shape, or form.
Right, yeah.
And it may just look different to everybody else.
Or not,
Right, exactly. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm, like my buddy Sue's, she had, her day is 11 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Oh wow!
She's basically offset her sleep schedule, and it's just but that works for her. It's very different.
People, but once you figure that out, isn't that a beautiful thing? And be like, okay, and to be cool with that instead of trying to make yourself fit into the uncomfortable structure that works for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So with the 7-note challenge contest, you can. I forget the website. I'll put the website in the show notes below where you can submit. But also my favorite podcast, the Break the Business podcast, hosted by entertainment attorney Ryan Carella, is doing their own mini version where you can submit to his podcast as well. And they have a bunch of cool prizes like books from Ari Herstand, who's one of my favorite authors, Ariel Hyatt, Suze Polinsky, who I actually referenced earlier, and somebody else who's really cool. Oh, a bunch of artists are giving away CDs like Mary Amber and Verity White. So I'll put those links in the show notes. And just want to say, Anne, thank you so much for chatting with everybody today about Play It Like You Mean It. And
thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Anne. No, thank you. So anyway, we're gonna take you out with my most recent single called Porcelain that I talked a little bit about earlier in the podcast or in the video. And then next month, Anne, do you want to talk about a song for next month? Are you willing to commit to the tape?
So, speaking of structure, speaking of playing like you mean it, to be emotional. So, agreed that next month this is on me, and so likely you're going to see some of my process as I will probably play part of this song live. This song yet to be written, or at least to be shared with anybody. So there you go. I am committing to not only Zach, but to whoever watches this. So You'll have a new song from me in a couple weeks next month.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you come up with. I have no doubt it's going to be something special. You always seem to come up with great stuff.
I work well with accountability and structure and prompts. So there you go.
There we go. All right, everybody, this will be my song Porcelain. Thank you so much for hanging out with Anne and I, and this was the Break Free vlog.
The bridge is bending and statues shake. We're descending with what's at stake. I can see what's coming from miles away. You are loving, trying not to break my heart, but it's falling apart. If you love me, then love me. If you're leaving, then go. Get your tongue out your cheek, say what you mean. I ain't made of porcelain. If you're seeking something, go find it. And if you need release, please stop biting your lip, cut to the quick. I'll find my way again, and cracked and broken. But that don't make me porcelain. Time lapses and your essence heals. I'm done collapsing and starting to kneel. Strong and steady, come what may. I am ready for what comes my way again. But I comprehend. If you love me, then love me. If you're leaving, then go. Get your tongue out your cheek, say what you mean. I ain't made of porcelain. If you're seeking something, go find it. And if you need release, please stop biting your lip, cut to the quick. I'll find my way again, cracked and broken. That don't make me porcelain. And I won't bring you back. This hold has no cracks. Oh, lesson learned. Don't build a bridge just to get burned. No magic comes in waiting, and I won't be mistaken, 'cause this contemplation is breaking, but we ain't changing. If you love me, then love me. If you're leaving, then go. Get your tongue out your cheek, say what you mean. I ain't made of porcelain. If you're seeking something, go find it. And if you need release, please stop biting your lip, cut to the quick. I'll find my way again, cracked and broken. But that don't make me